good evening. Welcome back to Course 3 on Applied Meditation. We're now doing Class 9. This is going by so quickly for me. Hopefully, it's not going by either too quickly or too slowly for you. So let's take a moment and think about our motivation for being here in class today. Why did you come to class? Why are you here? And if you find your motivation was to actually get here on the Zoom call was not as big or as high as you'd like, you can make it bigger and higher right now. Sashi Puki Jukshin Me Tok Dram Rira Blingshi Nyende Gampadi Sangye Shingdu Mikde Uwagi Drokun Namdak Singla Tupasho Iram Guru Ratnamandalakam Niryatayami Sangye Chudam Soki Chuknam La Jangchu Pardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Jishe Gipe Sunam Ki Drola Pinchir Sangye Drupasho Sangye Chudam Soki Chuknam La Jangchu Partu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Jishe Gipe Sunam Ki Drola Pinchir Sangye Drupar Sho Sangye Chidam Soki Chuknam La Jangchu Partu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Jishe Gipe Sunam Ki Drola Pinchir Sangye Drupar Sho. So thank you for your practice and your interest in this course and for being here today. I hope that things are going well with the readings and the homeworks and quizzes. Before we get started, does anyone have any questions? What do teachers expect from their students? And then how do we ask someone to become our teacher correctly? So, what do teachers expect from their students? If we think about emptiness and karma, what teachers expect from their students is a reflection of the kind of student they are. Their students will be a ripening of the seeds that they've planted as being a student. So that's the only expectation. There's not an expectation that on the part of a teacher that a student will do anything in particular. Um, Teachers may have hopes, right? Teachers may hope that their student um, or that their students listen respectfully and engage in class and ask questions and um, think deeply about the teachings that the teacher is sharing and put those teachings into practice and ultimately to reach their highest goal, right? That's all the teacher wants, is for students to uh, become enlightened, to quickly advance on the path. And how to ask someone is to just be respectful in your way, in your normal to your culture, and just ask, you know, will you be my teacher? How can I reach higher levels in the 9 levels of meditation? So we had before the list of the 5 problems and the 8 antidotes. So basically, the process is identifying what problem may be occurring in our mind, uh, either getting to the cushion, like if we can't even develop a regular practice, then recalling those 5 antidotes, thinking about the benefits of meditation primarily, and that it is only through meditation that we can develop our mind such that we can focus on the nature of reality directly, so that uh, we can cut through our negativities and then quickly advance on the path to enlightenment. So it's whatever problem it is that we're experiencing, we identify it quickly, no judgment, just identify and apply the antidote. And then it's just a matter of uh, trying to develop a regular practice. Our minds like, in some ways, they like habits. So if we can set a place and a time, that's good. And regularly practice. Start short, a short duration of meditation, and build up over time. And then stay with one meditation object. So if we want to do prostrations in a physical way, where should I include them as a preliminary for meditation? So what I do in my practice, and I think this is typical of whether you are going to teachings or doing a meditation session, that you clean the room, prepare the altar, uh, make your physical offerings, and then before I sit down, I imagine that I am surrounded by holy beings. I invite them to come as part of making offerings, physical offerings on the altar. I invite holy beings to come so that even before I sit down on my cushion, I'm not the only one in the room. And so before I sit down, that's when I do physical prostration. Class 2. Is it okay to meditate with your eyes closed? Or is it better to meditate with eyes open slightly? So there's no like right answer. The whole thing with the eyelids is to just place your body in a way where you're not going to be tempted um, then it's good not to close them. If, on the other hand, having them partly closed causes them to flutter, that can be distracting. That can, if it's not conducive for you to partially close or fully close your eyelids, then keep your eyelids open. It's going to be challenging. You probably have a lot of tears if you keep your eyelids open. But you'd want to look down and again have not be focused on any particular external object, because you are withdrawing inward like that. Great, thank you for these questions. So now we are finally in the fourth major part of our course, and we're talking about the object of meditation. And we started last time talking about the different types of meditation, and then also talking about the object for meditation for this course. And I invite you to take up this object for the next bit of time, to use it as your object of meditation for developing shamatha, if that is what you're going to do, and I hope that that's the case. And so our object of meditation for this course is The Source of All My Good by Tsongkhapa. It's a Lamrim text of one of the many that he wrote on the Lamrim, the shortest one that he wrote on the Lamrim. It's beautiful poetry. It is, at least I found, easy to memorize, and so easy to have at the ready, not only as you're walking around and living your life, but then also on the meditation cushion. Easy to go through those three types of meditation: review, meditation, analytical meditation, and then fixation meditation. So we said that there are 4 major parts to this Lamrim. Does anyone remember what the first of the 4 parts is? Reviewing in this way helps us to memorize, helps us to recall. Yes, thank you. It's the root of the path is taking a lama. And then what's the second part of this Lamrim text? How to practice and purify the mind after taking a lama. Beautiful. And then the third part? Requesting help in our practice. Great. Thank you so much. And then the fourth part? Yes, thank you. Prayer to meet teachers and to achieve our goals. So we talked about the first of those 4 parts, taking a lama, and then that itself has 4 parts. Can anyone tell me what the first part of taking a lama is? It's developing faith and admiration in our teacher. And then this was a little bit confusing because even though it's 4 parts, there's really only 2 parts. But the first part has 2 parts, which makes 4. So it's like 1, this is 1A, right? Because we're just talking about the first part of the major part of the Lamrim. 1A is developing faith and admiration in your Lama. 1AI, that's how to think about your Lama. 1AII, that's how to act toward your Lama. And then 1B is developing reverence for your Lama. And that was contained in the first verse. The source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. Bless me first to see that taking myself to them in the proper way is the very root of the path, and grant me then to serve and follow them with all my strength and reverence. And we talked about the different requirements for a lama. We had 10, a list of 10, and that you don't have to give them to me. And then we had an admission that finding someone with all 10 qualities would be a very, very difficult task. So there's 5 qualities. So if we find someone with 5 qualities, that's good. And then another admission, finding someone with those 5 qualities can be very difficult. So we have the list of 5 bare minimum qualities. And we talked about the main way to please our teacher is to put into practice what they teach. And putting into practice what they teach. I want to get the chat back. Come back, chat. Thank you. So that practicing what our teacher teaches, we can, I mean, it's not only good to do that, right? To practice what our teachers teach us, because the only reason they're around is to help us to reach our highest goals. That's like their sole purpose. And when we're practicing what they teach us, we can, in our minds, make that an offering to our teacher. You know, when we wake up in the morning and rejoice that we're still alive, we can think, you know, oh, today I can practice the Dharma, and may my practice of the Dharma today may that be an offering to my teachers, that they please stay and please continue to teach me, like that. I mean, that's just an example of how you can make it an offering. You can also make it an offering when something challenges you during the day, and you remember that you're a practitioner of the Dharma, and you remember you know, how to control your mind or your speech or your actions. And you do so, and you can make that as an offering to your teacher. And on your meditation cushion, when you know, finish your session, yeah, may this be an offering to my teacher. So there's a danger in for practitioners, and that is normally we really want to get as many teachings as possible, right? And so there are many teachings on offer, and it's very easy to like spend all our time going to teachings. But we have to remember to also, you know, there's three different parts. There's listening to teachings, but that is not the only thing we have to do. We have to contemplate what we've been taught, and we have to meditate on what we've been taught. So it's good to, when you hear a teaching, to take it as personal instruction for you to practice, and to, after the class, think about, okay, how am I going to incorporate what I just learned? The danger for practitioners is to just keep collecting information. And we may become intellectually smart about the Buddhist teachings. We may understand, we may be able to recall all the lists of things. We may be able to recall what was taught when and where. But we have to think about these teachings. We have to, and by thinking about them, start to bring them into our hearts. And then by meditating on them and practicing them, they become part of us. And there's no longer like a separation between me and what I've been taught. And that's where we want to be. So the danger is if we don't, very soon after teaching, start thinking about what was taught, contemplating it, and meditating on it, and practicing it. That when we hear the same things again in the future, we come a bit hardened to it. Oh, I know that already. Yeah, I've heard that one before. And we don't want to be jaded with the teachings. It's very good to bring to mind before every class we go to, my teacher is giving me personal advices on how to improve my life, and that's why I'm here. And set the intent. May I do a complete practice with these teachings. May I hear them. May I contemplate them. May I meditate on them. If we think about the teachings as being personal advices, then even when we hear something that we've heard before, we can go, oh, my teacher is teaching me this again. Why do I need to hear this again? Like, what is my teacher showing me by teaching this again? And we can look at our own lives and see, like, oh, yeah, I need a reminder about this teaching. I need to think more deeply about this teaching. Like that. So you want to do what you can to avoid becoming, like a really smart Dharma practitioner, but someone who is not happy in their lives, versus someone who takes the teachings as personal advice, puts them in their life, and, there should be signs for you. You should be seeing that the more you go to teachings, the more you think about them, the more you meditate on them, the more you apply them in your life, the happier you're becoming. And if you're not getting happier, then something's off. Something's off. And you can go to your teacher and see if they'll help you with that. But it may have something to do with what I've just said. So now we're on to the second major section of this Lamrim, which is how to purify the mind and how to practice once we've taken the Lamrim. And this is interesting. How to practice and how to purify your mind. It's the same word. Say Jangwa. See lips moving, please. Jangwa. And Jangwa means both to practice and to purify. So this has two parts. So we're on the second major part of this Lamrim, and it has two parts. The first part is Ningpo Lempar Kolwa, say Ningpo, Ningpo. Lempar, Kulwa. Ningpo, if you know this word, I have a friend named Ningpo. It means essence, like the heart of something, essence. Lempa means to give or to take. And kulwa means to urge. So to urge taking the essence. So this is our teacher urging us to get the heart out of, to get to the heart of what our life is about. And we'll talk more about this, but I just wanted to give you the two in case there's all more question that asks for the two. That's the first part. And the second part of this major section of the book is Ningpo Lempe Tsu. So these two words are the same, taking the essence. So before we had Klowa in the first part, which is urging us to take the essence. And now we have Tsu. And Tsu means the way. How do we take the essence? So first, we have to want to take the essence, right? And our teacher is urging us to take the essence. And then secondly, how? How do we do that? How do we take the essence? So we're going to talk about first that urging us to take the essence. And it's the second verse in the source of all my good. And here's all the Tibetan, but I'll just read the English to you, share the English with you, which is, bless me first to realize that the excellent life of leisure I've found just this once is ever so hard to find and ever so valuable. Grant me then to wish and never stop to wish that I could take its essence night and day. I just love this lamrim. Lenshik Nyepe means that you find it one time. And Doe Tensem is this kind of life, this kind of body. Shinju Neka means extremely difficult to find. Dunshen Shegyurne, we should realize that it's very precious. So the first thing to think about is it true that we can find this kind of life only once? This kind of life where we're a human being, we have an interest in exploring why it is that everyone is suffering and there's war and poverty, all this suffering on our planet. And is there anything we can do about that for ourselves, for others? We have an interest in that. We can think we're not so physically or mentally challenged that we can't. We've met a teacher. We have an interest to learn. We have motivation to get up and meditate. So there's all these sort of qualities that we have. And is it true that we can only get them once. And if we just think about it logically, of course, that's not true, given that we've been around. This is to Buddhist teachings, and the next course is course 4 is the one that talks about proving logically that we've been around for beginningless time. There is no beginning to the times that we have taken birth. And that our minds, there will be no end to our consciousness, our mind, our awareness. So when we're talking in the realm of infinity, of course, there will be another time when we will have this collection. But it's very difficult to have this particular set of circumstances. And we're going to talk more about that. But it's very rare. I think I shared with this group about the turtle who walks around at the bottom of the ocean, and there's a life raft floating on the top of the ocean, just a small one. And once every 1,000 years, the turtle comes from the floor of the ocean, swims up to the surface, and I don't know, maybe he just wants to look at the sun or something, but grab a breath of fresh air. So this only happens once every 1,000 years, and then they go back down. So this life raft floating on the surface is what we're going to talk about today, which is a life with leisure and fortune, a particular set of circumstances and a particular set of freedoms from obstacles that give us the best situation, the best standing from which to practice the teachings. So imagine, in this huge ocean, there's this life raft floating around, and the odds of us getting that particular situation are so slim for that turtle to come up and poke his head through the life raft. So our odds are like that. It's very difficult. So it's almost like it's a one-time thing. It's almost like this is our only opportunity. But let's talk about what is meant by this condition. And in Buddhist teachings, they're called the 8 leisures and the 10 fortunes. And in this verse that I just read to you, it only talks about leisures, this life of leisures that I found just once. And it doesn't talk about fortunes. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But first, let's talk about what they are. So leisure is kind of an interesting way to talk about this. So leisure, normally we think about leisure as being, oh, I've got the time, or leisure is like sitting around at the beach and not doing much, or just reading our favorite science fiction novel or going to the movies or something that's like entertainment or like vacation kind of thing. But that's not what that means here. We don't have 8 vacations in that sense. What it means here is mi kampa ge. Mi kampa means lacking opportunity. So this may sound a little confusing, but once we get to the list, it will make sense. So we've got 8 types of lacking opportunity. The first one is wrong views. Wrong views. If you've studied the 10 non-virtues, this is the most serious of the 10, right? Wrong views. And they can be different sorts of things, different kinds of wrong views. The most serious one, karmically, is not believing in karma, not believing in cause and effect. You don't believe that what you do now will plant a seed that ripens into a future experience. You don't accept that. That's the most dangerous one. And that's easy to accept, right? If we don't accept cause and effect, then why would we keep any morality? There'd be no consequence. You know, we could go around hurting people all the time, taking from me, looking after number one, and not caring about anyone else, and there'd be no adverse consequence to that. So that's the most dangerous lack of opportunity, is holding wrong views, especially that holding the view that karma doesn't exist. And unfortunately, I see this it's starting to come into so-called Buddhist teachings. It's just very dangerous, and it makes me very nervous. When we talk about living in degenerate times, to me, it's a sign that the teachings are starting to fade on this planet. But anyway, we are fortunate to live at a time where most places on the planet, we have this idea that it's not good to steal, that it's not good to kill. So it may not be a fully thought out relationship between what we do and then what we experience in the future, but at least we have this sort of societal pressure to not kill, to not steal. So even, we have this around. In my country, that seems to be fading quite a bit, which also makes me nervous. But it still exists, you know. The second leisure is to be born as an animal. And this one is just animals don't have the kinds of minds to contemplate ideas like actions causing future experience, right? They may start to have some idea, they may have some instinct, but it's not like a conscious awareness of it. The third is to be born as sometimes you hear it as hungry ghost, or sometimes you hear it as craving spirit. It's one of the realms of existence in the Buddhist scheme. It's not something we can see normally. Buddhism says that they exist, but they're also an example of a kind of being that we cannot prove. So for right now, if you have not been studying for a while, if you haven't been exposed to this, it's okay to just, you don't have to buy it 100%. Just write it down on the list, and then as you study over time, things will become more clear. So, what is it about hungry ghosts? There are different kinds of hungry ghosts, but these are beings who, like, if they could be beings who are thirsty and they're sitting beside a stream of water. And while a human or an animal may look at that water and see it as healthy and something good to drink, the hungry ghost sees it as a river of pus and blood, something that would not be good for them. Or they're very hungry and, they're around a lot of fruit and berries and whatnot that animals and humans would eat. But for them, their throats are so tiny that they couldn't get a berry from their mouth into their stomach. So their throats are so tiny they can't eat anything. So they're always hungry. The main thing about hungry ghosts, craving spirits, is that, as you might imagine, if you're always hungry and thirsty, that's all you think about. You can't think about anything else. You can't think about helping others. Your mind is totally engaged with that. The fourth kind is being born in the hells. And again, this is another example of a type of being that we have not seen, but we can imagine what it would be like. It would be like, let's say, being in Antarctica, where no human beings live in Antarctica. There are scientists who go there, but they don't live there. It's not a place that's conducive for human beings, but it's freezing cold there. The scientists can't go walking about for very long because it is just so cold that they would freeze. So there are hells that are like that. Cold hells. There are hot hells. Like I don't know, living in the midst of war, where the heat of bombs and and gunshots and so on is incredibly disruptive. You can't be thinking about. I mean, in war, people do think of helping each other. That's for certain. Um, we see evidence of that all over. But if you're in a hell where everything is on fire and it is burning your flesh, you're not thinking about, okay, what's my object of meditation? The fifth kind is no teachings. And what this refers to is being born in a place where nobody has ever heard of the Buddha or the Buddhist teachings. And there are no teachers, there are no books, there is no tradition of people who practice the teachings, no nothing. And pretty much, with the advent of the internet, I think there's pretty much no place left on the planet where we can say that this is true, that there is a place with no teachings. There is access. The sixth one is the many places no Wi-Fi. Well, that's a problem. So there are some places where there are no teachings, like especially in war, correct? Yes. So the sixth one, they call it living in a barbarian land, and this is an uncivilized place. The word for this is, remember we had lay low as the first antidote to the problem of not getting on the cushion. Well, this is lalo, lalo. And what it means is that no one is keeping any of the 8 types of vowed morality. So if you don't know, there's the 24, the vows that you take for 24 hours. There are the lifetime layperson vows for men and women. And then there are different monastic vows. So there's no one who has taken those vows. The seventh, let's see, 5, 6, 7. The seventh is being handicapped, being severely physically or mentally challenged. You're born as a human, but perhaps you have some problem with the brain where you're not able to think very clearly. And it's not just that you're slow, but there are some diseases of the brain where the person doesn't have the capacity to learn. Or there could be other types of severe mental problems where you're people who are under they have a situation of like being constantly hallucinating. The reality that they're experiencing is not the reality that we experience. The eighth one is to be born as a pleasure being. So again, this is another kind of being that we normally have not seen. But we did talk about them in realms, and we talked about meditations that result in a birth in the form realm. So being actually born there, people have very lovely bodies and very little sickness, and they're very happy, and they have all good things. And basically, they're too happy to be interested in practicing the Dharma. Things are going too well, they have everything they need. And yes, they're collecting karma. And they're also spending karma, right? In each moment, we are both planting seeds and experiencing ripened seeds. So we're spending and collecting karma in every moment. So they're spending huge amounts of positive karma, having this existence of pure pleasure. There's nothing going wrong at all. They're beautiful. They have, lovely children. They have a lovely partner. They have a lovely home and lovely cars and lovely everything. And they live like this for a long period of time. And then at the end of their lives, right before that life ends, they see what's going to happen to them. And they get a tremendous amount of fear in their lives. And then, the next birth that they take is going to be in the lower realms because they have spent so much of their positive karma and they have not created any positive karma. They've just been spending. No saving involved. So those are the 8 leisures. So these are 8 lousy situations that we could be in where we don't have the opportunity to practice Dharma. And mostly we don't have these 8. And by not having them, that's why they're called leisures. We are free from having been born as an animal or as a hell being. We are free from having taken birth as a hungry ghost. Like that. So those are the 8 leisures. Now the 10 fortunes, these are things, these are stated in a positive way. So these are fortunes in the sense that they provide us an opportunity to practice the Dharma. Number 1 is we're born as a human. Humans have the right mix of intelligence and suffering and happiness. And they're also a social being. We are social creatures, and we do look out for each other. So we have a tendency, even though we're very selfish too, we do have a tendency, at least in our family, at the very least, to look out for others. The second is to be born in a central land. And this is in opposition to being born in a barbaric land. So what this means then is that we live somewhere where someone is keeping one of the 8 kinds of vowed morality. The third is that our faculties are intact, meaning that we can hear, we can see, we can think. Now, these faculties, as someone who's getting older and older and now part of, the elderly, we lose these faculties. These faculties will not be as strong as they were in our 30s for very long. We start to lose our hearing. We start to lose our sight. We even, unfortunately, start to lose our ability to think as clearly as we used to when we were younger. So the opportunity here, the fortune here is short-lived. And we should take advantage of it. 4, we haven't committed any of what's known as the 5 immediate misdeeds. And these are 5 actions that are so horrific. They plant such negative karmic seeds that in your next life, immediate next life, you will be reborn in the lowest hell. And they are killing your father, killing your mother, trying to harm a Buddha, killing an arhat, and where did my 5th one go? Oh, splitting up the monks. So there's 2 of them that we can't do. And they're the 2 related to splitting up monks and harming a Buddha, because these are related to a Buddha who appears in the traditional way, the one who comes, the 3rd one we had, which was Shakyamuni Buddha, the one who appears like that. And then splitting up the monks is a particular situation. It happens with every Buddha. It's where someone tries to divide the group of monks who are following the Buddha. So it's those 5 things, and hopefully we have done none of the other 3. Killing our mother, killing our father, or killing an arhat. The 6th fortune is living in a world where the Buddha has come. So we are fortunate to live on a planet, this planet Earth, where Shakyamuni Buddha came. The 7th is living in a world where the Buddha has taught. And why this is distinct from living in a world where the Buddha has come is that apparently not all Buddhists teach. In fact, Shakyamuni Buddha, after he became enlightened, did not teach for a period of time because he felt that no one would be able to understand him. So we've lived in a world where the Buddha has taught. Living in a world, the 8th one, living in a world where the Buddha's teachings have not been lost. Now, the fact is that in on our planet, we have lost some of the Buddhist teachings. Some of them are lost to us. We do have some remaining, and we read those and we learn about others that used to exist, but we don't have them anymore. So it's Buddhism as it exists in people's minds and exists in the books. So we talked about the books, and then in people's minds, there are people who are they have received teachings and they have them in their minds such that they are practicing them. They are living those teachings. They are in their hearts. The ninth is living in the world where what Buddha has taught is being practiced. So these are all sort of in a flow. So the teachings are still existing. They're in people's hearts, and people are also living them. They're practicing them. They are continuing to advance on the path to enlightenment. They're continuing to attain realizations that can lead them out of suffering. And then the 10th, the last one, is living in a world where there is support of practitioners. There's support of people who practice the Dharma. And we still have some of this. Maybe not in all cultures, but it seems in Asian cultures especially, there is a strong desire to support people who are sincerely practicing the Dharma. It's very rare in my country. When I went into, I was getting ready to go into a 3-year retreat, and I was inviting friends and family to support my retreat. And, out of the hundreds of people I know, one person did. One person did. Fortunately for me, my teacher fully supported my retreat. Okay, so those are the 8 leisures and the 10 fortunes. So we may not have all of them perfectly, but we do have a lot of them, right? So now we move on to how do we purify the mind in practice. Once we've taken a lama, nope, we're not moving to that. We've already been there. And we've been talking about how our lama is urging us to take the essence of this life. And now, how do we take the essence of this life? Right? So the next 2 verses in the did I forget a line? I did forget a line. I'll have to fix this Tibetan. I'm sorry. The next 2 verses come together. My body and the life in it are fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first, thus, to recall the death that will destroy me soon, and help me find sure knowledge that after I have died, the things I've done, the white or black, and what these deeds will bring to me, follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow. Grant me then ever to be careful to stop the slightest wrongs of the many wrongs we do, and try to carry out instead each and every good of the many that we may. Geshe Michael is so very skilled at translation. I just find that so incredibly moving. It's beautiful in the Tibetan, but the way he's translated it into English just moves my heart. So our life is like a bubble in the ocean. We're asking our Lama to bless us to remember how quickly it is that we can die. And that after we die, like a shadow, the good and bad karma that we've done, the good and bad actions we've done, we've planted those seeds. They'll follow us like a shadow. And then we say, let me believe this. Let me understand this. Let me perceive that this is correct. And then let me therefore give up doing any minor bad deed and instead take up every good deed that I could possibly do. So this encapsulates I forgot to mention one thing. I'll come back to what it encapsulates in a second. So in this, how do we practice? How do we take the essence of this life? It has three major parts. And this is commonly what people say when they say that there are three parts to a Lam Rim. It's these three parts. And the three parts are, first, steps that are shared with those of less capacity. Second, steps that are shared with those of medium capacity. And third, steps for those of great capacity. And what's meant by capacity is it's not really ability, not that kind of capacity, but it is our motivation. So lesser capacity means someone who has the motivation to get out of the suffering realms of existence, to get out of the cycle of suffering, oneself. They are concerned with their future lives. They're not really concerned for this life. That's the lowest level, the smallest capacity. Then the medium capacity is, the lowest is to get a higher rebirth. The medium capacity is to get out of the cycle of suffering altogether. oneself. And then the greatest capacity is to become totally, fully enlightened in order to help others also become totally, fully enlightened. So, this verse that I just read, this is for the steps of the path that are shared with those of lesser capacity. So, shared, and we'll talk about shared later when we talk about the other two major parts tomorrow, or not tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. Those two verses are the steps of the path for those shared with those with for lesser capacity. Okay. And then that step, so the first of the three, has two major practices, major ways of taking the essence of this life. The first is death, and the second is karma. So the first, death, thinking about death, mainly our species is pretty darn nervous about thinking about death. We don't like thinking about death. We have a fear about death. But it comes to each of us. We know of no one who has escaped death. I mean, certainly everyone we know now who's walking around has not died. They're still alive. But we know that, no one has lived much past, let's say, 116 or so? We've heard of people who have lived that long. But we know of people who have died before they're born, even before they get out of the womb. We know of people who have died when they're children. The older we get, the more people that we know and love have died. So we think about death not to be morbid, not to get all sad about having lost people we love, but to remind ourselves that this time we have, this life we have, with the leisures and fortunes that we have, the opportunities that we have for practice, is very fleeting. It's very fleeting. So we think about death in three different aspects of death. The first is that death is certain. Death will come. No question. The second is we have no idea when death will come. We have this idea we're going to live until we're old and gray-haired, but there's no guarantee. The very smallest thing could kill us. And we have no idea when that will happen. The third is that when death comes, only the Dharma can help. Now, this we have to think about more deeply, and we do so when we meditate on death. In this part of the meditations on death, you put yourself in a situation where You are, let's say that you're blessed with having a normal death where you're lying in a bed and people have known that you're in the process of dying and you're losing certain physical and mental abilities, and you're lying there. And the closer you get to death, the less people around you can help you. You are very alone. And as you die, in and you'll learn over time the more you study, but as you die, you are withdrawing energies. And what our cultures may say is the time of death, like when breathing stops and when the heart stops beating. That's when our cultures say death has occurred. But in the Buddhist way of thinking of things, death has not yet occurred. There are still energies going on in the body. Life is still, you are still alive as a human being. But when your heart is stopped and your breath has stopped, there's nothing that another human being can do to help you. But your mind is still, your body is in the process of failing, but your mind is still present. It's very disturbed by what's going on. And your brain is losing certain abilities. But if you have practiced something over and over and over and over, if you've become fully habituated with practice, you can use that at the time of death. And that's really the only thing you can do at the time of death, is to use the practices that you've been given and that you have practiced well, that you are thoroughly familiar with. Then, as for karma, we have to think about what happens after we die. What kind of life do we take? Do we take a life? What happens? And in the Buddhist scheme, the mind does not end. This body, this gross physical body, this will end, this will fall away, but we will have a subtle body. They call it a wind. It has as much physicality as a wind. And subtle mind continue, and then take on new gross physical form and a gross kind of consciousness or awareness. So what will that look like? And why do we take one certain kind of physical body and gross mental awareness versus another? Why are we born as an animal versus being born as a human? Or why are we born as a human who lives in a place where there's no dharma, or born as a human into a place that has dharma? We have to think about karma. And this is a very, the next 6 minutes I cannot give it justice, right? We can talk for hours about this, but it's the relationship between what we do, karma, and what we experience, and emptiness. But in the Lam Rim, uh, there are many ways to talk about karma, and there's a whole course on karma, which is the next course I'll be teaching in a month or so. But the four laws of karma are generally where people start when they talk about karma. And that is, the first law is that every action will produce a result for certain. Now, it's not just the certainty that actions have consequences. The certainty is in the type of consequence. The type of consequence will match the type of action. So what that means is that if actions that benefit someone will have consequences that benefit you. So the consequence matches the action. So it's the same with bad. If we harm someone, the consequence of harming someone is being harmed, experiencing being harmed. So that's the first law of karma, is that it's certain, in that good brings good, bad brings bad, and never the two shall meet. Even though it may look like certain is the one experiencing all the good results, that's not why they're experiencing all the good results. It's not because they were bad. It's because they did something good. Maybe we just didn't know about it. Okay, the second law of karma, that consequences are larger, they're greater than their causes. And this is easy to think about if we just think about the physical world, that when we plant a tiny little seed, we know that we plant it and it grows into, for example, a tree. In the same way, when we perform an action, we are planting a seed. It's not a physical thing. It's a propensity. It's an energy in a way. Propensity is better. And that propensity grows in effect over time until it ripens. So as you imagine, you want to hold on to your good seeds for as long as possible, so that when they ripen, they're as big as possible in positive results, right? And your bad actions, you want them to ripen as quickly as possible so that they don't grow large, right? And that's what purification is about. And in the karma course, we talk about that. So we've got the two laws of karma so far, that karma is certain and that the consequences are larger than the cause. And in 1 minute, we do the next two. The third law of karma is you can't experience a result if you haven't created the cause. Don't expect to be born in a Buddha paradise if you haven't created a Buddha paradise. There's not one like sitting there waiting for you to come. You have to create it. And then the fourth one is, once we have created an action, once we've done something, its consequence will come. So that negative karma I just talked about, where we want it to ripen as quickly as possible, it's going to come. It's going to ripen. There's no question about that, even when we're talking about purification, because what we're doing is we're causing it to ripen quickly and in a small way. So those are the 4 laws of karma. So those are the practices of that are shared with those who are of lesser capacity, those who are practicing the teachings in order to have a better future life, in order to avoid being born in the hell realms or as a hungry spirit or as an animal. Okay. And I'm so sorry that I have gone over time. And I ask you, please don't forget to dedicate your interest, your having been here, your attention during this class. And please dedicate it to as big a result as you can. And please do the readings, and you'll learn more about these practices and start to think about them, start to bring them into your life. And thank you. And thank you, live translators, you're amazing. Thank you, tech support. Thank you, everyone who made this possible, especially Geshe Michael. And I'll see you in a couple of days.
Thank you, teacher. Thank you, teacher. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Please stay.
Благодарю, достопочтенная Утпала.
Спасибо. Thank you.
Thank you, teacher. Please stay. We love you.
I love you all too.
Thank you, teacher.
See you in a couple days.
Thank you, teacher.